to get this on film.
I don't want to give any advertisements away here, but basically you put this thing on and you line it up to the back of your head.
I can't see it.
Can't see it.
There
it is. That's awesome.
Right? Yeah. I bought it off Amazon. But that, and then I got my own set of clippers that are like for hair, and I got a pair of clippers just for a beard. Yeah. Nobody's thought twice about my haircuts, to my knowledge, over the last couple of years.
One time, like a couple years ago, I got drunk, and I told Lawson to shave my head, and it just didn't get finished, so there was like little particles everywhere, and I just kind of ran with it, and I went to work the next day, and everyone noticed that was not a professional haircut, and I just like ran with it until I grew my hair back out. Deep Shot Podcast, Season 4, Episode 34, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Jackson.
There's a bunch of good 34 running backs.
There's another really good one, Walter Payton.
I was thinking like a Bronco Mendenhall or somebody for some reason.
Okay, I'm just shocked that I said Walter Payton and there was just silence.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I know. I was waiting on Caleb to, I was just kind of waiting there.
I was doing my own check, like, oh really, was he 34? Yeah, he was 34, and then I figured Garrison would fill the spot. But it's okay. Dead air. It's okay with dead air. Sometimes you need dead air. The college football playoff needed more of it last night because that dude had no clue what he was explaining.
Absolutely none.
All right. Welcome to another episode of Deep Shot Podcast. We're going to get into the rankings from last night in just a second. We're going to talk about some new head coaches. Kentucky got a new one. South Florida. Signing day is today on Wednesday as we're recording. We've got conference championship weekend and some big games in the NFL we're all going to talk about. For that, just want to remind everybody to make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok. We are above 1,900. I think last week is when I said we were at like 1,770. So we've had a big last week. We're 69 followers away from 2,000. So if we could get that maybe by the end of the week, who knows? That would be huge for us. I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, we were under 300 followers in January. So to get to 2,000 would be quite the jump. And really appreciate everybody listening. I posted a Spotify wrap today. Would not be where we are without everybody listening. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube as well. Season 4, Jake said it way back in episode 1. This is going to be the biggest season yet, and it has been by a long shot. So thank you to everyone for listening. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. The playoff rankings last night came out. This is what's the word? The preemptive, is that the word? Preemptive rankings, last one?
What is it? They always said it in Game of Thrones because episode 9 was always the biggest one. God, I hate myself
culminating?
right now. The pre-ultimate.
The penultimate, right?
Penultimate, pre-ultimate.
We're not, but this is a sports podcast. I mean, we're not doing it grammar.
I think it's penultimate. It's penultimate.
All right, I'm not even going to fact check it. Penultimate rankings. These were the penultimate rankings. I think that's probably how you say it. So they're the last ones before we get the final ones on Sunday. All right. Some of the big things that I noticed, and I'm sure everyone else did as well. Ole Miss is good. They're at 6. A&M goes down to 7. All right. So we know Ole Miss is going to be in even without Lane Kiffin. Charlie Weiss announced he was going to be playing, or he's coming back to coach. So that's big news. A&M's at 7. They'll probably have a home playoff spot. Alabama, though, they jumped Notre Dame. So those 9-10 spots flipped. That basically to me said, okay, Bama's in no matter what.
Yeah.
So that's what that said. And I know I made the video last night for the reaction. And in the reaction, I said, if you're not in the top 10 and you're not playing this weekend, you're not going to the playoffs. I have kind of backtracked a little bit because I think the more I look at it, if BYU, who's sitting at 11, they're in. If they win, they're in, right? And I think in that scenario, Notre Dame's going to be out. But if they lose, do you think they'll jump back a little bit? So then Miami and Notre Dame are going to be right beside each other. And at that point, would Miami finally climb Notre Dame? I want to think yes.
Someone listened to Josh Pate today, didn't he?
Yeah, last night.
I also did. And great point, but I'm a little mad because You just said exactly what I was about to say. Like, exactly what I was about to say. Because I think it's real. Because if that does happen, BYU loses, and then like say Troy beats James Madison, right? Or something like that really shakes it up. And then the committee really has to make that decision between Notre Dame and Miami. Like in my heart of hearts, I believe truly if Notre Dame and Miami played on the field today, I understand that game in September. I understand that Notre Dame lost and Miami beat them. And I think that should take precedent because at that point, why play the games? Why play the games if it's not going to matter? I truly think Notre Dame is the better team today. I do. I think they would beat them. But why play the games if we're going to be going off of, like the meme is like another hypothetical win for the SEC and it's SpongeBob throwing up the alley-oop to Patrick. You got to play the games. And I feel like if that situation that you were talking about exactly happens, they have the choice between Miami and Notre Dame. They got to choose Miami. They have to.
But
They
will
have
they?
to.
But
Will they? Probably not. Probably not.
Caleb?
I'm a little skeptical that they're going to boot Notre Dame out. I'm pretty sure Notre Dame's AD is one of the people on the committee for the college football playoffs, so that's going to be a brutal conversation. But listen, Deep Shot Sports Rankings had this, what some people in the business are called a trap door in for Notre Dame for weeks. We've had Notre Dame at 10 since I think the first time we pretty much did a ranking for the college football playoff this year. They've stayed put. And we've known that if somebody showed up at 11 or 12 that was willing to maybe, take that spot right there, let's do it. Here's my question. Here's my hypothetical. And I talked about this today at length. I wonder if Duke wins, do they just go ahead and just put Miami in the playoffs? It'll be fine. Just go ahead and just shove them in the back door. Just nobody notices. You know what? We're going to get some representation from the ACC. They're the best at large team.
Mm-hmm.
This is also contingent on BYU losing, right? But let's say it happens. Do they just BYU loses and Duke wins? Let's just go ahead and just ease Miami in the playoff.
I think so, because I do think that is a very valid point that if it gets to next Sunday and they're making these rankings and they get to the end, they're like, man, we really don't have a single ACC team in here. Like, I think it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, no ACC team deserves it, leave them out. But for the committee to actually do that is a pretty big deal, right? Now, what's gonna be awesome, and this is the disaster scenario I am on my knees begging for, is for Troy to beat James Madison and Duke to beat Virginia. Because in that point, I think Duke would be the 5th highest ranked conference champion. I think they would. And then we'd have an 8-5 Duke. And that would be absolute cinema.
That would be so bad, dude. So that is something that James Madison is ranked, right? So right now we're in a scenario where if Duke wins that game, but let's say James Madison wins, it's a foregone conclusion. We are going to have 2 G5 teams in the playoff because North Texas and Tulane are both ranked. So whoever wins that game is going to the playoff.
And James Madison is like a 21.5 point favorite this week against Troy. It is most likely going to have 2 G5.
Yes. So it would be chaos, right? It would be chaos if that happened. I'm praying that Virginia wins because as much as that, I don't want 2 G5 teams in the playoff. I know Virginia probably is not that far off of a G5 team if we're just in terms of how bad they'll get beat. Okay. But it'd be better. The whole scenario about, do they slide Miami in just to have an ACC team if Duke wins? That maybe. I think it's I think if the whole Notre Dame getting moved back to 10, which we had them 10. We almost nailed the rankings, by the way. We just ironically messed up the 6, 7 spots. But
you would think at this point we would be dialed on number 6 and number 7.
Well, Caleb was punishing Ole Miss. It was kind of his fault. But
listen, I didn't know Charlie Weiss was coming back. If I'd known Charlie Weiss was coming back, that would not have happened.
But it's interesting. It really interesting. We're going to end up with 2 G5 teams and no ACC, or 2 G5 teams and no Notre Dame, but we threw in Miami because of last things. Or here's the thing, if BYU wins and Duke wins, so then Duke gets in, and then it definitely just becomes Miami or Notre Dame at that point. And then I feel like Miami would have to get in, right? I don't know.
In that scenario, let's say, so BYU wins, so BYU's in the playoff, Texas Tech is also in the playoffs, and say Duke wins, it really comes down to that JMU Troy game. Because if JMU beats Troy, they're in, no questions asked. Like they're going to, because they're going to be. Well, I guess that is true. This is the most
I think you're right.
Playoff of all time. Because so if JMU beats, but Virginia is ranked 17.
If BYU wins, okay, they're in automatically, right? So let me look at this scenario. Let me look at the ranking real quick. Okay, so let's just assume.
You guys are saying Texas Tech loses and BYU win.
So BYU then is in. So let's just assume. All right, Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, A&M, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama. Those are 9 teams that are all probably in the playoffs, right?
Yep.
Automatically. The 10th one would be BYU if they won. The 11th would be the G5. So that's all 5 conference champions are accounted for at that point. Or no, they're not. They're not. So they would just have to go to the ACC champion at that point, or the other G5. So so that means Notre Dame and Miami are going to get left out.
Correct. All 3 of them. If Notre Dame, Miami, and nobody's talking about Vanderbilt in this situation because they got stuff behind Texas by the committee, which I don't know what the bleep that's about. I find that to be complete garbage. But that'll be that's the path for Notre Dame to not make the playoff in my book, or unless the committee's got some balls and puts them in front of Miami in front of them.
What's crazy about the Texas Vanderbilt situation is the only reason why Texas is ranked above Vandy is because Texas beat Vandy, right? They have more losses than Vanderbilt, less wins than Vanderbilt, but they beat them. So the committee's like, okay, obviously we're going to put Texas at 13. Well, then why has Miami been ranked behind Notre Dame for the last month?
Yeah, same thing with Oklahoma and Alabama.
I think all that comes back to like those. Miami was so disappointing. I don't know if you guys necessarily remember the discourse around here for whenever Miami took that L against LSU or Louisville off of a bye week at home earlier in the year, and that was like the first life we were like, whoa, they can lose. Yeah. First of all, they can lose because I had them as their number 1 team at the time, and they stunk it up on a Friday night after a bye week at home, like they were just asleep. And then they go and do the same thing at SMU. So I think the committee was punishing them just because. For one, they thought they were way better than what they were. And Miami, you can say whatever y'all want to. I know the rest of the country ain't been watching Miami. If you had to take a team for your life to win a game, they're in probably the top 5 of teams in college football. Like just talent, par for bar, playing ability. You talking about S&P plus, like EPA per play, all the nerd statistics, DVOA. They're up there. Way high. It's just they had 2 stinkers.
Yeah, so there is a scenario that like I said, we just went through that Notre Dame, Miami could both miss the playoff. So that's insane.
I mean, like Caleb, to go back to your point, I do remember the discourse because they were ranked number 1 for us for a while, but you were wrong on one thing you said there. You said that none of us expected them to lose that game against Louisville. Well, shout out Dave Lodano, our guest picker on that episode, did have them as his deep shot. So Dave's a listener. I wanted to give him this quick shout out real quick.
All right, shout out Dave. Okay, so we'll see. It's going to be some I have a feeling that BYU is not going to win, and then we're just going to be arguing Miami, Notre Dame. So we'll see. But the G5 and the ACC, that's up in the air. I mean, Virginia's only like a 2.5-point favorite against Duke. They did already beat them this year. We'll see. Okay, let's talk about a couple wrap-up things in the coaching carousel right now. So after we got off on Sunday, a couple more things happened. I think like right after we finished recording Sunday night, Kentucky fired Mark Stoops. They ended up moving pretty fast and hired Will Stein, the Oregon offensive coordinator. Big news also happened today. South Florida hired Brian Hartline, and I think a lot of people know who that is. That is the Ohio State offensive coordinator. I think this is his first year as the OC, but he was the wide receiver. He's been the wide receiver coach there for a long time, and we all know Ohio State produces some of the best wide receivers of all time. Bob Chesney, the James Madison coach, is going to go to UCLA. That's pretty much wrapped up, and all those things have happened, and there's a team out there that was maybe not the first, but very early on to fire their coach, and that was Penn State. And they got turned down by Kalani Sitake today, the BYU head coach. Now, shout out to the Crumble Cookie guy and the Built Bar guy who were BYU alums and probably just threw the bag of this guy, which I think BYU and the Mormons in general, they've got money, so they threw it at him. But Penn State, with all those names I just mentioned, right? Kentucky got a head coach. South Florida got a head coach. UCLA's got a head coach. And Penn State does not have a head coach.
Yeah, so I love that we're talking about this. And I was having a conversation with my buddy Graham, who's a really big Penn State fan. I was just saying, look, hand up, when Penn State lost, who did they lose to? What was James Franklin's last game? Do we remember that? When they lost to Northwestern, hand up, I said they should fire James Franklin. Now, I was saying this all in the thought process that a team like Penn State can come up with a head coach before Arkansas, before Virginia Tech, before UCLA, before South Florida. Because I'll say this, Penn State wanted Brian Hartline. They were trying to get him up there. I saw this awesome meme today. It's that little kid sitting at Five Guys, the one that says, Lil Bro wanted Meyer, Elko, Signetti, Rule, Freeman, Drinkowitz, DeBoer, Riley, Sataki, and Chesney, but 8.5 Meyer, Elko, Signetti, Rule, Freeman, Drinkowitz, Lade, DeBoer, Riley, Sataki, and Chesney money. Harry Smith it is then, champ. Because that's kind of what they have left. They're going to have to just hire from within and bring Terry Smith in. And that's like, not to talk down on the guy because I'm sure he's a good coach and all that. But when you fire a guy like James Franklin, who was in the college football playoff semifinal a year ago, they were 10-2 every single season. When you fire a guy like that, you do that with the thought you're going to get the list of the 9 people I just said, or you're going to make a move to be able to get, DeBoer, a big name, a proven guy who's been there to come in. And it's just when you're dealing with a team like Penn State, there has to be some sort of expectation. And I will say, listen, the Penn State job is a better job than what it is being treated like right now. But is it? Is it at this time right now? Because National Signing Day was today. Penn State has the 150th ranked signing class.
Virginia
Just
Tech has
behind
the
the
20,
South Dakota Jackrabbits, dude. Which is
Virginia Tech has the 22nd, by the way. James Franklin has them at 22.
It's absolutely unacceptable. I think Penn State is in probably the worst position that they've been in since the shower situation, and there's just no hope in sight. What do they do from here? Are they going to have to portal in 60 guys and try and make up a team to be?
They might have to portal in a head coach.
They might. They really might. It's just very disappointing because, like you said, Sataki chose BYU over Penn State.
It's his alma, though.
It is true. It is true, and that is valid. But it's Penn State. Penn State should be able to do enough to convince a guy coaching at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, that hey, come over to the big boys, get into the Big Ten, and let's talk. The University of South Florida convinced Brian Hartline that they're a better job than Penn State.
Insane.
But that's the thing is these aren't hypotheticals. These are real things that have happened. And it's crazy.
Kentucky got a coach.
Arkansas.
The day after they fired somebody, they got a coach.
Yeah, it's bad. And looking back, they probably should have just never fired James Franklin because what are you doing?
Interesting. I feel like there's somebody on this podcast that said that at the time that this is a fucking terrible idea for them to fire the guy. Some people in the world forget where they come from. I think Penn State, this is my analogy. And I hope nobody else has made this analogy because I've tried to not listen to discourse about all this stuff. I have not finished the Josh Pace episode yet. So if he said this, listen, me and him are just on the same page. But Penn State's like a 39-year-old divorced woman, okay? Freshly divorced, right? She took the Ozempic shot, got that thing slimmed down a little bit. Now she thinks she's got some better suitors. She went from winning 4 games a year and having a scandal early on when she was like 24, 25. Now she's got Instagram followers. And she thinks everything's good, and all these people on Instagram are giving her all this and that, compliments. And she gets out on the dating market and realizes it's a train wreck. Mm-hmm. And I'm just as good as about 25 other people that are in my town. So, Penn State, you really think about it. Is it that much better of a job than BYU? Because here's what Penn State's got to deal with. They got to out-recruit a bunch of teams in their area. They got to out-recruit Pitt. They got to the entire ACC, Ohio State, Indiana now is something they've got to worry about. And the ACC can poach their players from up north anytime they want to. The conference is also tougher because you talk about BYU. Who do they have to beat every year? They're gonna have to beat Texas Tech every year, and they're gonna have to beat. In my opinion, I think the next strongest team program-wise in that conference is Arizona State. So they've got. And would you rather play Arizona State and Texas Tech or Ohio State and Indiana every year?
And Oregon.
And throw in Oregon and Michigan and USC into that equation as well. I understand they have the resources and the money, and I understand that there's good football players in Pennsylvania, but something sour enough to turn all these coaches, make them pinch their nose and walk away. They're not doing this for no reason. And Brian Hartline could have had that job if he wanted it, and he took South Florida, people. South Florida on signing day. Which is crazy to me.
Insane. And why there's a great analogy there, Caleb. That
was fun.
That one might get clipped on the Instagram. Okay, speaking of signing day, that was today. Early signing day. There obviously is another one in February, I believe. But this is obviously guys that are probably going to be heading to campus in January, early enrollment stuff. couple headlines. Jared Curtis, obviously the number one quarterback, committed to Georgia twice, by the way. He committed once, then decommitted and committed again. And then he flipped to Vanderbilt at the last hour. Apparently it came out before he even wanted to say it, but he is going to Vanderbilt. This is why I don't keep up with recruiting, because this is, at this point, what are we talking about? This guy committed to us twice, and then Vandy came in at the last hour and did it. Also, Chris Henry Jr., a wide receiver, 5-star, was committed to Ohio State, and because of the Brian Hartline news, he is now between Ohio State and Oregon, and apparently Oregon is making a big push and is now the favorite. And then also, speaking of BYU, Ryder Lyons, another 5-star quarterback, is not signing with BYU today after being committed for a while. So, National Signing Day, here we are. And if you're wondering about, who's leading the pack right now, as it stands, USC is number 1, Oregon 2, Notre Dame 3, Alabama 4, Tennessee 5, and Georgia at 6, Ohio State at 7, 8, Texas, and so on. Any thoughts?
Kind of with you, Garrison. I stopped keeping up with National Signing Day and recruiting. Like once I got older than these people, that was kind of it. So we'll see how they are. I mean, I'll say this about Georgia, and I'll say this about Jared Curtis. Obviously, would have loved to see him in Athens because he's not a 5-star. He's a 5-star plus, which is something I didn't even know was a thing, but apparently he's better than a 5-star. But let's be honest. How many 5-star quarterbacks have gone to Athens and worked out?
Gunnar Stockton was I don't know if he was 5-star.
He was a 4-star. Gunnar, I thought he was a 4-star.
No, Gunnar was a 5-star at one point in the process, for sure.
Okay. Well, we can go along the lines.
Justin
Fields, Jacob Eason, JT Daniels was a 5-star.
Dylan Raiola was once committed to Georgia.
Dylan Raiola. I mean, listen, just trusting Kirby.
Yeah.
He can find another walk-on to win his 2 national championships. I'm not too pressed about it. Would have loved to see him in Athens, but at the end of the day, he wanted to play as a freshman. He wants to start next year for Vanderbilt. Hard to really doubt him. Hate him there, and he's also from Nashville.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Caleb, you're a high school coach. I mean, you've got to have some thoughts.
I still think it's an important day. Like, you guys can talk about the discount of Jared Curtis not coming to your program, but at the end of the day, like, if you do the things the right way in your program, you're going to keep those high school guys. Like, they're not all going to leave. So I think it's important for you to get good quarterbacks. You can say whatever you want to about collecting them and then they're transfer out. Well, you'd rather have them in your building, I think, than you would never even see them. So, to me, signing day is still important. Funny enough, I'm saying all this, and my principal walked in this morning and he was like, "They signing day, right?" And I was like, "It is the first Wednesday of December." "Yeah, it's probably signing day." I mean, it just didn't run across my desk this morning. Like,
you didn't have anybody
10 years
sign
ago,
it?
I would have been waking up, like, rubbing my hands. Like, I'm going to be online all day long, just seeing who's flipping, who's what. And there's still a lot of that stuff going on now, by the way. Like, everybody, this thing's all over the place. There's a lot of action going on during the day. If you missed it, there was a guy by the name of Tusi. He's and we're not talking about what Stephon Diggs had on that boat. However, we're talking about the guy that sung the song, Favorite Song, which is a great song. He committed to Syracuse. He's 25 years old. He played football in high school, but apparently he's going. Some are saying on Twitter there's another 4-star receiver that is between a couple schools. One of them's in Gainesville, who postponed his signing. Some are wondering if he is scared of Tusi coming up there and taking his spot in the recruiting class.
All right. Well, with all that, let's get into the games this weekend. It is championship weekend in college football. We are going to start in the SEC, Georgia versus Alabama. Georgia right now is a minus 2.5 point favorite. Over-under is sitting at 47.5. We all know the history, right? Bama has won 10 of the last 11 in this game, except for that big one. That one Georgia won was really big. Earlier this year, we had this game in Athens. Bama won 24-21. I said it then that UGA had to have a game. They had to have that victory. All right. This time, I don't feel as strongly that they have to have it, but I still want it very bad. Very, very bad. I believe the winner of this will have a first-round bye. I know we didn't really talk about that in the playoff, but I think if Alabama wins this game, they will vault into the top 4. Both teams coming off games where the run game was prominent in getting them victories against their rival. It's going to be important in this game too, but last time Georgia ran for well over 200 yards and still lost. So you're going to still have to be able to make explosive plays in the pass game to win this game. Obvious things such as turnover battle, third down conversion rates are huge. Bama felt like 1 billion third downs in that first game in Athens. Injuries are going to play a factor. Drew Bobo looks doubtful at this point. So we'll see. That's obviously a big loss. He's the son of the offensive coordinator, the center of the team. So that's, I mean, a huge loss if he's down. Hopefully, Chauncey Bowens is good to go. It looks like he will be, but last time they played, he was a huge factor in that run game. So we're going to need to see him. On Bama side, Josh Cuevas, the tight end, he is out. And Jam Miller looks like he probably is too. So both teams are going to need some new guys to step up. I don't like playing this team. I've always felt this way. I don't know.
Dude, Garrison,
I don't really
University of
know.
Georgia, bro.
I think somehow, some way, Georgia will probably find a way to lose this game.
Oh my God.
Bama needs it more. They really need it. I mean, they don't really need it more, but I mean, I think they'll win.
And they have just Bama, the Crimson Tide have just taken this win out of Georgia fans' tails, huh?
No,
This is
not
in
Georgia
America.
fans.
That's just like, you know what? Well, every other game, y'all are just like, we're gonna roll these bastards up. It don't matter.
I think we're going to roll these bastards up. It don't matter. I think we are. We were the better team. We were the better team in Athens, and we lost because Taylor dropped a wide open bomb just right in his breadbasket, and he dropped it, and we lost. I think we're forgetting the Alabama team we've been watching over the last month. Barely sneaking by against Auburn, losing against Oklahoma at home, barely squeaking by against LSU. The final score is 20-9 against LSU. LSU sucks. Barely squeaking by against South Carolina. This is not the same team that beat Georgia in September. We've been saying on this podcast that Ty Simpson does not look as good as he did early in the season. True or false? Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Alabama's run game has been non-existent all year. True or false? That's true. They get their run game going last week, and they lose Jam Miller. They're not going to be able to run the ball again on this time. Caleb had a great point in last week's podcast talking about third down conversions, and that Alabama's average third down in the Georgia game was like 3rd and 10 plus. And they converted like 10 or more of those. I can't sit here and tell you that I think that's going to happen again. I can't. And I'm trying to take myself away from Georgia and just had an unbiased position. Georgia is a better team in this situation. We are 11-1 for a reason, and we should be 12-0. Give me the dogs -2.5. I think we cover. I think we're going to. And I'll also say this. I think the whole idea of like Alabama needs it more or Georgia needs it more. Shoot, man, at this point, I think you're right, Garrison. This is a game for a bye. The loser of this game is going to have to play an extra game, and they're going to. So I think Georgia side, we got some injuries. We're banged up. We need this game. We need that bye to go straight into the quarterfinals and get ready for how it sets up. It's probably going to be like Ole Miss or whenever Ole Miss and a Group of 5 team. We need this one. We need this game. And I think Kirby's going to be ready. It's hard to beat Kirby Smart 2 times in a year. Alabama's tried it once, and they are 0-1 when they have attempted that. And I would be interested to see if Kirby Smart has ever lost a rematch. I don't think he has. So give me the dogs. I think we'll be ready. I think we'll turn it up. I think we're going to be able to play good defense. We're going to be able to sack Ty Simpson a good bit. Auburn was all over him last week. Give me the dogs.
I think your point about how important the off time is a crucial crux. I think both Kirby Smart and Kalen DeBoer both. Kalen DeBoer, if he can get his mind off the Penn State job, he's definitely focused in on getting his team healthy, and winning this week is going to be a huge cause for that. Now, I want to bring something up here, and I got some more analysis of the game, but I want to ask this question. Do you guys really think, I know some of the pundits in the media have talked about this, but do you really think an 11-2 SEC champ Alabama jumps from 9 to 4?
Yes.
Really?
I think it's what will happen. What will happen.
I'm just going to put my take out there, and I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm not convinced that's going to be the case. But anywho, in terms of the game, obviously important to win SEC championships. Kirby had a conversation in the media today, like, who the hell's worried about injuries? If you're worried about injuries, you don't practice. And if you don't practice, you're not going to play. You're not going to play good, and you're not going to win a damn thing anyway. So why are you worried about injuries? We get in the car and go to work every day. We ain't worried about getting killed in a car wreck on the way to work, though. We worried about getting to work. That's kind of the same thing that I took from that. I don't think, and I'm with you, I don't think Ty Simpson's going to be a lead on third down once again. I just cannot see it. You've watched it. The eye test lies to us a lot, but you can say whatever you want to. And Kalen's good in these games against the big dogs. Is Ty Simpson going to be the same in these games? I don't think Bama's run game is going to improve compared to what it was against the Georgia defense last time. I understand they've been running a little bit better. And the only way that I can see them doing that, which would be really, really risky, is if they were to run with Ty Simpson, design runs a little more, because whatever your opinion is, it pops a little more whenever he's carrying the ball in buck sweep going down the sideline for 45 yards. Okay. That's going to help the run game. That's the one thing that Georgia struggles with defensive wise every year. I mean, you guys have been watching for years and years. A mobile quarterback is the only thing that can really give them disruption. They're going to be able to somewhat cover up these guys, especially with Ryan Williams being down. I'd still say Georgia wins by a touchdown plus, just because I think they're not going to have the same red zone woes as what they did last game. You know, you can go back. This has been a long time ago. You know, 3rd and Cash Jones, 4th and Cash Jones, both those plays. One of them, receiver didn't block. You think you'll probably get the execution on that. And then also, too, I don't necessarily think they're going to be as scared to call plays that are risky in the red zone, because Gunnar Stockton has showed since then that he's one of the better quarterbacks in college football.
Hope you guys are right. I really do. It's like I said, it's a game where I do think that the winner of the SEC championship is going to have the bye. If Bama wins it, I think they vault up, because you have to keep the sanctity or the sanctity of the championship games. They have to mean something, and you can't just say, okay, well, no, now we're going to give Oregon the bye now too. I mean, I don't see that happening. Okay, let's talk about the Big Ten championship though. Ohio State, Indiana. Indiana is a 4.5-point dog right now. Over-unders at 47.5. Last year, we saw this game in Columbus. It was a beatdown. Fun fact, Ohio State has beaten Indiana 30 straight times. Indiana hasn't beaten Ohio State since 1988. These two teams have been dominant all year long. That's why they are number 1 and 2, respectfully. You can really call it as a clash of the Titans right now, a big moment right now. Both defenses are top 5 in pretty much every statistical category. Indiana has a slight advantage on offense in terms of stats. I'm interested to know if that shows up in this game. Can Indiana have a balanced attack on offense and keep up with Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Bo Jackson, Julian Sand? Because I have little to no doubt that Ohio State is going to be explosive and score points. Like, I don't think that Indiana is just going to stuff those guys. I don't see it happening. Can Mendoza, Surratt, Omar Cooper, can they match that? Can they go bar for bar with Ohio State in that game? Like, they're going to have to score. What do you guys think Indiana will have to score to win this game? How many points?
They're going to have to get in the 30s, I would say.
At least.
I
think it's a completely different game script than what you guys are talking about. I think it's going to be like, if Indiana's going to win this game, it's going to be a defensive slugfest, and they need to score 24 points and hold Ohio State down, tamp them down. That's the only way they win in my book. If it gets into the 30s, they've already lost.
Yeah, well, I have a hard time believing Ohio State's going to be able to get stuff like that. But I am not going to get burned by Cignetti again this year. So I'm going to go Indiana plus 4.5. Hope they win. No clue if they will. But going to find out a lot about both these teams. Give me Indiana plus 4.5.
I don't hate that at all. I'm also going to be taking Indiana plus the points in this one. Here's one thing I will say that does cause me to a little bit of concern for Indiana, because I'll say this. I think Indiana is a very good team, and I'm not going to try and take away anything from that. But I do think there are some concerns with Indiana when they get matched up with some good talent, right? We can look at 3 games on the schedule that they won all of them because they're 12-0. And like I said, they're a really good team. But they beat Iowa by 5 points. They beat Oregon by 10, and they beat Penn State by 3. And I know you're saying, Jake, Penn State sucks. What are you talking about? Penn State has talent on that roster. They have talent on that roster. Indiana makes a habit of blowing out bad teams. When they get matched up like a team against Purdue, like they did last week, they're going to win that game by 53 points. When they play Maryland, they're going to win by 45. UCLA by 50. Illinois by 53. They're going to do that. But these games where they play good talent, it's always been tight. And that's what worries me about it. With that said, I am going to take them plus the points because I do think they're a good squad. But I think Ohio State will probably find a way to be able to win this game by a field goal.
I think this game goes over, by the way. Like, I think Ohio State's going to put up some points. Caleb, I agree that, like, if Indiana wants to win, they're going to, that probably needs to be their recipe. I just have tough time seeing it.
Me too, and that's why I'm taking the Buckeyes to cover right here. For sure, don't think that you're going to be able to hold Julian Sayin down, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. Everybody talks about Jeremiah Smith. You need to talk about Carnell Tate a little damn more. How about that? Because Jeremiah Smith is a freak of nature, but Tate might be the best receiver in the country, and the second best one's probably on his team. I'm just saying. I fully expect them to be competitive, talking about Indiana. And look, I love what you're talking about, Jake, in terms of them playing, good teams tough all year long. I tell you what really solidified it for Ohio State was last week when Bo Jackson was running all over Michigan. And you can tell me whatever you want to. Michigan's got talent, and they are built to stop the run. That is solely what they go for, okay? And they took it to him last week. I think Ohio State's going to turn them loose once again. Indiana's run game is really good, don't get me wrong, but there are certain little things that you can do to make the run game better. And Ohio State's got the players to be able to make that happen. Like when you're talking about the screens, lateral passes, things on the sideline, quick dunks, RPO helps things out. They're going to be able to do all that stuff. That's why, this is the most exciting game for me this weekend. I'm going to make that's probably a spicy take. And I'm not a Georgia fan. My day said that I'm looking forward to the Big Ten championship more because I think this could be the national championship. No doubt.
I think there's definitely a chance there. I mean, I will say it's probably the two best teams of college football this year. I mean, 12-0, they have convincing wins. They both have big wins on the road.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're
anybody else beat Oregon and Eugene this year. And you're going to have the pageantry of the SEC championship game. I understand that. And I'm all about it. Once again, I love it. And if I didn't have a wedding to go to this weekend, guess where I'd be? Atlanta. Okay. But there's nothing better. There's no two teams that pass the eye test. Like Indiana whoops bad teams and plays the good teams good and wins. Ohio State does the same thing, except it's a little more dominant when they do it.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of another dominant team, Texas Tech is playing BYU in a rematch of Week 11. Texas Tech is minus 12.5. Over/under is 49.5. Texas Tech won the first game 29-7. This is the first time either team is playing in the Big 12 championship game. Since they last played, both teams have just been dominating their competition. Both have won all of their games since that game by double digits. I cannot get the last game out of my head, though. Texas Tech has better athletes on both sides of the ball, all over the field, and it was apparent in Lubbock. I'm not sure how BYU wins this game at all. Like, when it came to this game, I didn't, you look at the stats, Texas Tech has top 5 offense, top 5 defense. BYU, they've got the good numbers, but the only way BYU is going to win this game is they have to have a, +2, +3 turnover margin. They need a special teams touchdown, something like that to, kind of change the momentum. I mean, this game is going to be played in Arlington, Texas. So if you didn't know, Texas Tech is in Texas. So they're going to have a lot of fans there, okay? I just don't see a world where BYU wins this game. I think Texas Tech covers. I think they keep it going. Texas Tech minus 12.5 might be the lock of the weekend. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I think Texas Tech rolls.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially on that point where you said it's hard to get the last game out of your head. Like 29-7, and it was over
bad
from the start.
It was
from
so
the
bad.
very beginning, you knew because BYU had multiple opportunities in the fourth quarter, not to win, but to at least make the score look better, right? To score a late touchdown or two, and they couldn't. BYU was absolutely suffocated that day. I think it was Bear Bachmeier's worst game of the season statistically, and it's hard for me to imagine it's going to be any different. Now, with that said, the spread is 12.5, and I'm going to take BYU plus the points because 12.5 is a lot of dang points for a conference championship game. And say what you will, BYU is still a good team. I think Texas Tech is a very good team. I think Texas Tech is a team, count on your right hand how many teams win a national championship. I think Texas Tech is in that conversation. They have the talent, they have the coaching, they have the quarterback play, they have the defense, they have the tools it takes to win at Natty. But with that said, I am going to take BYU to at least cover because if I see 12.5 points for an 11-1 team, I'm going to take it. Now, yeah, I get it. They lost by 22 points in Lubbock, but this game is in Texas, but it is going to be, they're going to have the ticket shares all mixed up. So it's going to be a little closer to 50-50, probably closer to 60-40 Texas Tech. I think that should help a little bit. Maybe with the head coach extending, maybe he can rally up the guys to come out a little bit more excited. Do it better. So give me BYU plus the points, but I am going to take Texas Tech to win the Big 12 JV.
Absolutely, I'm with you guys, and I'm not going to sit here and say I hate doing this to a team that's in a conference championship. Like, congrats BYU, you did the thing. You got your crumble cookies. You kept your coach. You staved off Penn State. You're going to Texas, even though I don't know if they necessarily want to go to Texas, but you've got to win to get into the college football playoff. That's their task. So I think they'll play up. They'll play with their hair on fire. This is not unfamiliar territory for just BYU in this game, though. Like Texas Tech's never been to a conference championship game like this for the Big 12. So this is going to be massive for them. I honestly just believe that Bear Bachmar is not going to play well enough for them to have a chance in this game. Like, to me, when I think about teams that are outgunned on talent, you've either got to do one or two things. One, you got to turn the ball over and you got to be able to dominate another phase of the game like special teams. Okay. Or your quarterback's got to play lights out. That's the two ways you play when you're ungunned, then you can win. Okay. I don't know. I don't expect them to do either, because if you want to talk about defense, Texas Tech's defense, they've got probably 5 NFL players in the box every play. Okay. And they're in the same talent stratosphere as Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, not South Carolina, excuse my French. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. Ohio State, Indiana, that territory of talent, okay, in terms of what they got. They've also got a linebacker, last name Rodriguez, they've tried to kind of pump him for the Heisman. I think he's thrown a touchdown pass this year. And whatever he does on offense is cool. He's a hell of a football player on defense. So I expect them to snuff out the run game that BYU uses to keep them relevant for all of these games and beat the bad teams that they've played. They've only been challenged by 2 teams all year, Utah and Texas Tech. Utah game was full of turnovers for Utah, and that's the reason why they won that game by 3 points. And then they got smoked in Lubbock. So I expect the same to happen this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, not really going to talk about the ACC championship game, but there is an ACC championship game. So
I'll make a statement here on that. I'm taking Duke to win that thing, by the way.
Duke.
I think Virginia's a little inflated. If you go look at common opponents in the last couple of weeks, Duke's got a better score versus their score ratio than the other team does.
They did play earlier this year, though, and Virginia did win.
And Duke's played better as the years went on, though. Like, since the Virginia game, like, I know they've got a common opponent, Wake Forest. Wake Forest beat Virginia 16-9 in the ugly game. And Duke beat them last week. So we'll see.
Crazy. The ACC, man, we're the only conference where you can lose to a conference opponent and it doesn't count as a conference game.
And isn't it so crazy? Like, at the beginning of the year, dumbass number 1 right here, this guy in the stream right here, was saying Clemson was going to go to the national championship and win. And they didn't even have to do that. They just had to win 9 games. Yeah. And they would have got in. Just maybe even 8. I mean, it's going to take Duke 7 and they're going to knock on the door.
It's insane. Yeah. I can't wait to this Sunday, whenever we see the playoffs revealed, I'm going to go back and look at our projections. That should be fun. Okay, just also real quick, I want to shout out Kennesaw State. They are playing in the Conference USA Championship in Jacksonville, Alabama. Or maybe is that with the city that Jacksonville State's in, I think? Yeah.
No, they're going to play the conference championship game in Birmingham, I believe. Right? Or is it
it's in Jacksonville. So it's in Jacksonville, Alabama. That's what it's saying. Amherst Stadium, the Kennesaw State Owls, the biggest turnaround in a long time. I mean, they won 2 games last year in their first year in the FBS. They're now minus 2.5 point favorites in the conference championship game. Who knows? Maybe they sneak their way into the playoffs. You never know.
My sister was over at the house last night, and I was explaining to her that if that Wake Forest game, they lost 10-9, like if they would have found an extra 2 points in there,
knocking on the door.
I forget who they lost to who they lose to a few weeks ago.
They lost to Jacksonville State redemption game.
And if they would have won that game, like Kennesaw State is 100% in the conversation to make college football playoff. Like without a question, 100% in the conversation.
Yeah. And they missed an extra point in that Wake Forest game, which is why they were down, lost 10-9. They also played Indiana tough for like a good quarter and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
53-9 or something in that.
Yeah. The first quarter and a half, they were playing well.
They were in it.
Okay. All right, let's move over to the NFL. Got some big games this weekend. It's getting nut crunching time. We're in December. So these, we're last 5 weeks of the season. If you're in the fantasy, you're hitting towards your last week, playoffs. So big weeks in the NFL coming up. It starts on Thursday night. Cowboys are playing the Lions in Detroit. Lions are -3, over under at 54.5. Both teams played last week on Thanksgiving. Lions coming off a loss while Cowboys are coming off a win. Big game for a potential wild card in the NFC right now. With both teams pretty similar records. Cowboys have won 3 straight. Lions have lost 3 of their last 5. Amon-Ra St. Brown seems to be questionable at best. Laporta's obviously still out. The good news for the Lions is the Cowboys are not a great defensive unit. They're actually one of the worst in the NFL, but their offense is number one in the NFL. So can the Lions keep up with Dak and CD and Pickens? Like, these are questions that they're going to have to answer because this is a crucial, crucial game in the NFC playoff race.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest. But I think what we're looking at is we're looking at two teams who are trending in opposite directions. Yes, the Lions, they've lost 3 of their last 5, and one of those wins was an overtime win against the New York Giants, who we just saw get smacked around on Sunday night. So I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at, the Cowboys just beat a good Philly team. They just beat a good Kansas City team. They had a really convincing win over the Raiders the week before that. The Cowboys are a good team right now. They are clicking on offense. And then I know, like, statistically, this defense is bad. Like, statistically it is. But I think since the trade deadline, and since they've, added a few players to that defensive line, the defense has looked better. They came up with a few really good stops in that Kansas City game to keep them in it. So with that said, I'm going to go with the Cowboys in this one to keep it rolling. Sam Laporta out for the season, most likely for the Lions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we saw, dude, the Lions looked okay until Amon-Ra went down last week. Once Amon-Ra went down on Thanksgiving, that offense looked like a shell of itself. They were forcing to ball to Jameson Williams. I think J-Mo's a good player. He's not a wide receiver one. He's not a guy you're going to have to be going to every single play, at least with what they have behind him. So with that said, give me the Cowboys to keep it rolling. And I'll say this, it's a huge game for the wild card. Man, if the Eagles keep falling, the Cowboys have a shot to win to win the East.
Thursday night game, a little early action for the week. I'm just thankful that we have good games to watch on Thursday. You know what I mean? Like, this could be way worse. This could be like Vikings Browns or something this week, but it's not. We got Detroit, we got Dallas, and I want to give credit to somebody that usually we don't need to give credit to because he tries to give it to himself. Jerry Jones made a couple moves at the trade deadline. You can say whatever you want to, but Logan Wilson and Quentin Williams have made that defense look competent once again. Just those two additions alone. And I think that Dallas is a much different team. Like, I don't think of them the same between the last 3 weeks and what they showed in the season prior to those 3 weeks. I think very highly of them. And I'm with you, Jake. I'm just iffy about Amon-Ra actually being able to be healthy and play effectively on a short week and give Detroit the juice they need on offense to win, because whatever you say, it's up to you. Detroit needs to score points in order to win games in this league. They cannot rely on their defense anymore. They don't have the players. They don't have the help. They don't have the coordinator. They don't have the scheme to be able to just sit here and roll the ball out on defense, be like, yeah, try and score on us. Not the case. Dallas, however, is going to take it to them. I would say whatever the over is in this game, it's got to be over 60 points. I haven't looked. If it's not over 60 points, take it.
54.
Take it. Take it. Take it. It's going way over. Because Dallas will be able to score 35 on their own. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb have probably put themselves in the we're the best receiver duo conversation, and they're up there with Devontae Adams and Puka in my book.
For sure. Okay, let's talk about the Colts going to Jacksonville this weekend. Colts are -1.5, over under at 47.5. Jags coming in, winning 3 in a row, while the Colts have lost 3 of their last 4. Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014.
That's crazy.
Big matchup in this game is going to be Jonathan Taylor versus the Jags run defense, which is number 1 in the NFL. And we've seen the Colts the last couple weeks in their losses be limited without, his explosive runs. So speaking of limited, Sauce Gardner is going to be out for this game. They are still missing DeForest Buckner. And apparently Daniel Jones has a broken fibula.
Mm-hmm.
He's still going to play, but can the Jags keep their streak going, Jake?
I think they can for all the reasons you're just saying. And then, like, the Jags are playing good football right now. They're playing good ball. And then on the flip side, the Colts, yeah, they've lost 3 of the last 4, and their one win was an overtime win in Berlin against the Falcons. Okay, we've covered the Falcons enough on this podcast. We suck, so that shouldn't have happened. With Sauce Gardner out, with Josh Downs banged up, and there's a clips on Twitter. If you go do a little Twitter search and find it, of Daniel Jones like doing like play action passes in practice. That boy's hurt. Like he's not. What is it? He's hurt, not injured. He's injured. He's whatever's worse between hurt or injured. He's hurt bad. He's not moving around very good, which is one of Daniel Jones' strengths, is being able to run the football, being able to roll out of the pocket, extend plays, do things along those lines. But then when he's hurt and the receiving corps banged up, the focus is going to have to turn to Jonathan Taylor. And the hero ball has not been working as of late, outside of that game against the Falcons, where he ran for like 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, because we suck once again. So I think the Jags have enough to get it done. Huge game in the AFC South. Huge game. Because we win this game and we're sitting at 9-4, 2 game basically 2-game lead in the South, the division could be ours. And with the Texans ascending, we know that Colts are still a good team. If they get healthy, they get right. We still got to, meet them in Indianapolis here in a few weeks. We've got to take this one. Have to. And I think the Jags, ticket department is really pushing for this to be a sellout. I think they texted every single person in the 904 area today. It was like, hey, 20% off tickets. We need to sell it out. Lock down the bank. Let's do it. And if I wasn't going to the Falcons game on Sunday, I probably would be going to this game. But, rise up, beat the Seahawks.
I said nothing like locking down the bank. That's a pretty cool little moniker that you can have for your stadium, like locking down the bank, man. Who's got a better one? Anybody? I don't hear him. Listen, I may or may not have a pick later in this game. I'm with you guys on the fact that Daniel Jones' ability to move around, whether it's in the pocket or just scramble on broken and extended plays, that's some of the Colts' best offense this year. That's gone. You can say whatever you want to or think that it's going to be there. He ain't going to start running on Sunday whenever he can't limp around on Monday or Tuesday. It's just not going to happen. And if it's a broken fibula, people, if you're not esteemed on vocab, fibula's in your lower leg. Very important for a quarterback. Depending on what leg it is, it's going to be debilitating. I don't care if it's his front leg or not. It's going to be hard for him to make throws, to be able to move. He's probably going to be thinking about that a little bit more and a little bit less of the reads and coverages and progressions, all that stuff. I think the Jags got a really big spot to get a big game and a big win for their season at home this week.
All right, let's talk about the Bears going to Green Bay to play the Packers. Crazy line alert right here. Packers are -6.5. Over under at 44.5. Crazy line because the Bears right now are the number 1 seed in the NFC after their win against the Eagles on Black Friday. Packers trying to keep pace after their win last week, so they're right behind them. Obviously, the Packers historically own this rivalry. Have won 14 of the last 17 at Lambeau Field. Bears running game has been off the charts all season, number 2 in the NFL. Going to go against a Packers defense who allows less than 100 rush yards a game. They did just lose Devontae Wyatt for the season, so let's see how that impacts them up front. We've seen the Packers be a little wishy-washy this year on offense, right? They've had some good games, and then they've looked like, think about the Monday night game against the Eagles. You think about the game against the Browns, the game against the Panthers. They've had problems. Obviously, their special teams has been a really big issue for Green Bay this year. And they're coming off a game where they had a really good offensive game. So is it back to being a bad offensive game against the number 1 team in the NFC? I would feel, good about the Bears, the way they're playing. But, Vegas is telling me no. Packers are a touchdown favorite here.
It is a very interesting line. The Bears were 0-3, 0-2, and they've won 9 of the last 10 to be sitting at 9-3, top of the NFC. That's really impressive. And the way they've gotten there is through their run game, and the tandem of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai has been game changing. And I think we've seen Caleb Williams look like a brand new quarterback, over 2,700 yards passing already, 17 touchdowns, got a couple on the ground as well.
Seems like the quarterbacks are better when they've got a good run game, huh?
Sounds like it. And when they have a competent play caller, it's huge. It's huge. It's really tough to make a call. I don't have a pick in this one. And honestly, if I did, I wouldn't even know where to go. But I will say, I think 6.5 points is kind of a crazy line for team like the Bears. It's crazy to think about that the Bears are a good team, but they are a legitimately good team. This is a good team that can play good complementary football. Their defense has improved. Their offense has improved tremendously. Look at Rome Odunze at this point versus last year. And I think Rome Odunze has a game this year where he had 0 catches, and he's still very much outpacing himself from the year prior.
Fantasy owner here. Yeah, he does have one of those and a couple other stinkers too, which he needs to get his shit together. Back to you, Jay.
I also have him in Dynasty. He has done. I understand.
I think we're all 3 Roma Dunze owners then, because I have him in my league with some of my Jacksonville buddies. So look at that. Look at that. We all drafted him. But even still, with those games, 44 catches for 6 tuds and 661 yards, he'd be the leading receiver in all 3 categories on the Green Bay Packers. So with those stinkers, he's still having an uptick in season. But it's going to come down to that Bears run game if they're going to be able to get it turning like they have been recently.
No, this is going to be a run the football kind of game for sure. You guys are not weathermen. I understand that. You guys work in different fields, whatever. But I'm just going to give you what it's going to feel like at game time. Solid 15 degrees. This ball kicks off. It's going to be a classic Green Bayer. Okay. Fully expect Josh Jacobs to go rock and roll though. The Green Bay understands that they've got to come in here and dominate from the jump, try and be more physical than the Chicago Bears, which the Bears, yes, their run game has been great, but they still feel like they're trying to play a little bit of kind of pretty ball, in my opinion. That's just me, just watching them this year. I think they try and finesse their way through a lot of things compared to what Green Bay does. I think Green Bay needs to take it to them on offense and just sell out to stop the run on defense because make no mistakes about it. If Caleb Williams is the guy that's going to have to win you your game, it's probably not going to happen. Okay, he's not going to go out there and line up an empty and win it by himself. It's not going to happen. They can play action if they want to, but if they're not running the ball, it's not going to be very effective for the guy to go into Green Bay and win. And I think Jordan Love is due for some kind of redemption at some point. He played pretty well last week, in my opinion, but it's got to get back to where we thought he could be at the beginning of the year. I do not have a pick in this game. I was terrified of it, but I'd probably take Green Bay, especially since it's 6.5.
It's a shame, dude. Caleb Spear just shitting on Caleb Williams. Dude, honestly, if you painted your nails and put on a Bears uniform and you didn't cut your hair today, I mean, we could sell you as Caleb Williams.
If I won a Heisman, dude, if I stayed in a high rise in LA, I'm just not that guy, pal. I can't paint my nails black. I mean, I would love to be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, but he does. I'm going to admit something I don't usually tell people. He can throw the ball a little better than me.
Just a little.
All right, and then Sunday Night Football, the Texans are going to Arrowhead. Chiefs are -3.5. Over-under is 41.5. If you were the Chiefs and still holding out hope for the playoffs, it all starts here. Like, they've got to win out, right? Okay, they've had pretty good success against the Texans in the past, right? And the Texans are on a 4-game winning streak right now, and C.J. Stroud is obviously back. They have the best defense in the NFL in most categories, and they are also fighting for their playoff lives late in the season here. Obviously, they're in the race in the AFC South. Andy Reid had a quote this week saying, "We're going to try to tickle your tonsils on every play, every game. That's the attitude we're coming with. Would expect nothing less."
Interesting.
A little sus, but so are the Kansas City Chiefs. So what do we think?
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win this football game. I would bet my life on it if I'm being completely honest. I mean, listen, this is a Chiefs team whose their playoff lives are very much in question right now, right? And what did we say on last week's episode? If the Chiefs want to make the playoffs, they have to win out. And it starts with this one. And I get it. Like, the Texans look better. They're on a 4-game winning streak, but there have definitely been some games in there that they probably shouldn't have won. I mean, I look at that Tennessee Titans game that won by 3 points. I look at the game against Indy that they won last week that they probably could have lost. That game against Jacksonville, they definitely should have lost. He scored 31 points in the fourth quarter. So I think the Chiefs, with the backs against the walls, they're going to be able to make it happen. I have a lot of doubts in C.J. Stroud and really the offense as a whole in Houston. Like, I understand the Texans have really good defense. You know who else has really good defense? The Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't think that C.J. Stroud's going to be able to make enough plays to be able to do it. I think we're going to be able to see some Patrick Mahomes Superman. Kelsey's going to make some plays. G. Rice is probably going to go for 203 tuds, and we're going to look back and be like, Kansas City's still in it. They don't lose games like this. You know, they have this year a couple times, but now they're really up against the wall. They are still good at Arrowhead. They're 5-1 at home. I think they'll be able to defend their home turf and be able to come away with the win.
Well, I know they're kind of in must-win territory, but the Texans are having to run really fast to keep up with the Jags right now in the AFC South and the Colts as well. So, and I know one of those games is going to sell out. They're licking their chops, y'all, because, I mean, they're going to be pretty close to first place, a lot closer than they were the game before if they win this one against the Chiefs, and it would be a huge win for the entire league, to be honest with you. I was thinking about, as I was watching New England Monday night, man, I really hope Kansas City loses. I'm going to, like my buddy Art, he's a Broncos fan through and through from Denver. I really hope they beat them at the end of the year and just kind of like stamp a hole in their throat and just like, all right, we're done. We don't have to worry about them this postseason, boys. I'm going to pull for the Texans this week to do the same thing, honestly. Defense travels. That's all I'll say. Defense travels.
It does. It does indeed. Okay, before we get into our NFL best bets, want to just finish off our college football season picks. Final records. Here we go. My final record is 37-32. Locks at 8-6. Deep shots at 3-10. Jake, his final record is 31-38. 9-5 on locks. Also 3-10 on deep shots. And Caleb's final record is 31-38. So this wait. Yeah, same thing as Jake's. 31-38, 6-8 on locks, 2-11 on deep shots. So, you guys tied for second.
There you go. I was down by like 7 games like 4 weeks ago. I got hot, dude. 4-1 the last week of the season to get with the tie. Huge week. And I will say this: I won the locks. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. I'm a humble guy. I don't need much. 1 for 3. I'll take it.
You got your victories. Listen, I think that you had a great season in picking, Jake. It was a way to finish. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish. Take away from my picks. Don't listen to me. I make terrible picks, clearly. And my crowning achievement is saying New Mexico State was going to beat UCLA. I did warn you guys about that one. So if you
Send
caught
your
the
kids to
train
college.
while the train was choo-chooing, you sent your kids to college.
Man, that's awesome. All right, well, let's get into our NFL best bets before we get out of here. My first one is it's a field bet. The Bengals are playing the Bills.
Ooh.
Bengals are plus 5.5. I like the way the Bengals looked on Thursday night on Thanksgiving. All right. They've got a little bit of a mini bye coming off, so they've got a lot of rest. I like it. I like the Bengals plus 5.5. The Bills have struggled against bad teams this year. They lost to the Falcons this year. They lost to the Dolphins. These are things, and the Bengals got to play with their hair on fire. Whether they'll win or not, I don't know. But 5.5. I mean, I don't think there's that much separation when the Bengals have Joe Burrow playing. So give me the Bengals plus 5.5. It's going to be 27 degrees at kickoff for this game.
For my first best bet, we talked about this game. I'm going to be going with a little bit of a homer pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars plus 2.5 is what I see. Garrison read it off at 1.5 earlier. I'm going to take the 2.5 that I see courtesy of the ESPN Sportsbook is the one I'm looking at right now. For all the points I said earlier, the Jags are playing really good. They're trending up. The Colts are playing bad. They're trending down. They got a bunch of injuries on their side. I think it's going to be a very huge opportunity. The bank is going to be locked down. Give me the Jags plus 2.5. Hey, Garrison, what do home dogs do?
They run faster.
That's why I got them on my sheet this week too, big dog. I'm taking the Jags plus 2.5. I think that's a huge spot for them to come up victorious and, make their statement in the division. And it's going to be huge for tiebreakers too down the road once you're trying to get in the playoffs. All right. Next pick is going to be based on vibes. We pick on vibes around here a lot. Maybe that's why our records are where they are. However, I feel like the Vikings are in a terrible spot as a franchise right now. There just seems like nothing's going right. And somehow they're favorites this week against the Commanders, the Washington Commanders. Marcus Mariota is better than all the quarterbacks on the Minnesota Vikings whole, dynasty combined. The entire team's quarterback room is not better than Marcus Mariota. I don't see why they're not a dog. I don't really understand. Do you guys have any better insight as to why? Did something happen? I mean, I know there's some things going on in Minnesota other than football, but we need to make sure that the Minnesota Vikings are properly rated here because I feel like this is just.
Is 9 coming back?
If he does, Vegas needs to be Commanders minus 2.5 if he comes back.
Maybe that's why it's not.
Well, I'll take them plus the points. I don't understand this line, so I'm just going to be like, I'm going to sniff it out. I'm curious.
Y'all want to strap into a gross game real quick?
No,
I was ready for it.
Strap into this gross one. The Tennessee Titans at the Cleveland Browns. Give me the Titans plus 3.5 on the road. This is going to be an ugly one. I mean, if you're watching Red Zone, you might see 2 plays of this game. But listen, the Titans have been playing teams close. Outside of that game last week against the Jags, they lost by a touchdown to the Seahawks, lost by 3 points to Houston, lost by a touchdown to the Chargers. While on the other side, the Cleveland Browns absolutely stink. And I don't buy into the Shadur Sanders hype. Big news, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, listen to this podcast. Have no fear. Deshaun Watson has been cleared to start practicing again. Y'all are back. So, give me the Titans plus 3.5.
I forget he's there. With all the stuff they got going on.
They don't. They cut the check, dog. They know who's getting that cash every week.
Dude, that game, tickets as low as $8 to go to Titans Browns.
What a steal.
Well, I have to Cleveland. Watch that one. Okay, I'm going to be taking the Tampa Bay Bucks minus 8.5 against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are just terrible. Bucks really need a win. They are way better. They play good against bad teams. I just like the Bucks to do that. I will be in Tampa next Thursday for the Bucks home game against the Falcons. So really excited for that. And just gonna go with the vibes. So have Bucks rolling momentum, and it's just. I mean, come on. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Another one. Kind of an ugly game here, but the Dolphins are low key on a hot streak right now. Okay, and they're playing the New York Jets. They're minus 2.5, and the Jets are feeling way too good about their win against the Falcons. They've actually low key been on a little bit of a run too. They're 3-9 after I think they were 0-7 or 0-8, so they've won a couple games lately. But the Dolphins, I mean, give me the Dolphins, dude. Minus 2.5. They're playing great. Mike McDaniel coaching for his job. I mean, it has just been. Let me just tell you. The Miami Dolphins, and we all went to Miami once. We were in Hard Rock Stadium.
Shout out Alpine Towing.
Shout out.
The Alpine Towing. With the Dolphins, I mean, I don't know, never mind. I was going to say they could get, but look, here's the thing. The Dolphins have to play the Jets, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Bucks, and the Patriots. But that Patriots game, they could be sitting people. So I'm saying that this Dolphins team could find their way to 8 wins somehow. Okay. And if they're 8-9 after the way they started,
You take it.
that is culture that Mike McDaniel has. Okay. And you need to believe in it. And, a lot of people shit on Mike McDaniel. I kind of got a soft spot in my heart for him just because I love a guy that will just, do whatever he wants and has a little charisma about him. All right. And I used to wear glasses. I understand what it's like.
It's a real
Kinda
shame.
hits
Like
hard.
if you can't afford contacts in this world, people really, it don't matter what's going on.
The
Really,
contacts, I mean, I think about when I was wearing glasses and, like it's crazy to think like the contacts, they cost me, hundreds of bucks every 6 months or so. But like the glasses were like a one-time purchase, but dude, I did not take care of them. I mean, there was scratches. There was, one of the nose things falling off. I mean,
it's hard to take care of them things though. Like,
this will
you
pop
get in a
out.
bad spot. They're the
Yeah.
first thing to come off.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dolphins.
There you go. For my last pick is going to be the Eagles-Chargers game. If you haven't been following, Madison Beer's boyfriend has a hurt hand, also known as Justin Herbert, has a fractured hand. Unsure if he's going to be playing. It does seem like he is trending that way. That's what Adam Schefter was saying today on Pat McAfee. Even if he plays, he's going to be banged up. And then on the other side with the Eagles, they have not been playing great football as of late. Their offense has kind of sucked. So with that said, I'm going to be taking the under 40.5 in this matchup.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Makes sense.
So for my last bet, I tried to find a Myles Garrett like player prop for sacks because I think it's going to go way over whatever it is. It's hammered. If it's 4.5, he's going to get 5 sacks. I couldn't find it though. That was my idea. I couldn't find it. So I'm going to pivot to a game in Jake's division. The Houston Texans plus 3.5 against the Chiefs. I think that defense is going to show up and show out this weekend. Like Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown. It's okay. It's fine and well. I think the Chiefs play a full team game, and sometimes like if one area falters or another, they can get behind the 8 ball. If the Texans can find a way to simply keep Chris Jones from wrecking the offense, I think they'll win this game. And I like plus points in that situation.
All right. Well, that will wrap up episode 34. Next time we talk to you guys, we'll have the playoffs set. That'll be really exciting to talk about. Big weekend. Championships are decided, and don't act like they don't matter, okay? They still matter. Those conference championships matter, all right? Again, follow us on Instagram and TikTok. If you're not, the road to 2K on Instagram is so close, okay? All right. Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Deep shout out.